Welcome to the Market Mindset. We are the hub for news, results, and CEO interviews focusing the junior commodities sector. We provide market analysis and perspective that will help position you for solid returns. If that sounds like something you're interested in, you can help support us by liking this video, subscribing to our channel, and clicking the notification bell. For more info, you can visit our website. All links are in the description below. Now let's get into today's video.
We're still growing at HIVE. We did an announcement that we're growing from 3 to 6 exahash this year with an interim step of 4 exahash. So well on our way to that. We just did a press release this morning. So our ASIC fleet alone is at 3.4 exahash. In addition to that, we've got about 150 petahash coming from our GPUs. That puts us at 3.55 exahash today. And to get us to the 4 exahash, all those machines have been shipped. We bought 1,100 S19 XPs. We bought a few thousand S19 Pro Pluses. We built some 5,000 Rome Buzz miners. This was all detailed in a press release a few months ago, and that was 1.26 exahash. So all of ASICs, those have all been shipped, and some of them are, maybe landed on Friday. Some are landing this week. They all come in batches, of course. But I would expect by the end of July, we should be close to that 4 exahash interim target, growing to 6 exahash by the end of this calendar year. That's just on the Bitcoin mining business. And then we have the growth in the AI business, which, as I mentioned, we partnered with Supermicro. We've got monthly shipments coming in now of the servers that will allow us to unleash the potential of our NVIDIA fleet of GPUs. We're growing our presence in the marketplace. And all of this is capped off by a very exciting development on the software side, which is HIVE Cloud. And HIVE Cloud is an enterprise-grade cloud service, which is allowing small to mid-sized companies who want to have much better economics than what's being offered on Azure or AWS, which are extremely expensive, and also have privacy of your data. Because for people that want to use AI compute, if you start uploading client data to, say, ChatGPT, well, ChatGPT, whatever you upload there, there's no guarantee. Like you sacrifice your privacy, right? It's like uploading photos to Facebook in 2012.
Yeah,
right? You had a family barbecue, or maybe you were in college, you put some party pics up there. Guess what? They're there forever. Sure, you could try to delete them. Like Facebook owns them, right? And so now, once bitten, twice shy. I think, globally people understand, in this age of social media and everything's online, you have to be mindful of where you're sending your data. And so if you want to use a general large language model like ChatGPT 4, that's a massive, trillion parameter LLM. But maybe you don't need that. Maybe what you really need is your own bespoke large language model that's been trained for you and your organization specifically. You can sign an SLA for, have privacy, have rights, have all of these ownership of your data provisions. So you have enterprise grade AI compute enabled. And that's what we aspire to provide with HIVE Cloud, which is launching in the fourth quarter of this calendar year. We're doing beta testing with a couple of clients now, so it's a very exciting time in the Hive universe.
with the AI and with the chips, you're going to have a lot of data that you have on your own business anyway. Will your AI, almost slash into machine learning, be able to crunch up data, as in like how the infrastructure of the business performs, to say find quicker ways to getting hash rates either, or efficiently choosing certain GPUs that are cooling off at better rates than others? We'll be able to predict and start to map out those types of things, like hotspots in a warehouse that you have where there's cooler computers compared to others. Will it start to track all sorts of information and data all the time? Or what are some of the visions or ways that you're seeing that AI might be able to help or interact with your company as a whole?
An interesting question. So what we have seen is, what you're describing is an enterprise utilizing AI to optimize, their own business. What I'm talking about is Hive as a company providing that AI infrastructure for generating revenues. So we're more focused on generating revenue on the AI side right now. I mean, we're experts in crypto mining. So, the matters of thermodynamics, et cetera, we've well established all of our data centers have been running for a long time. That's not to say that, if we wanted to build a system that would, scan thermodynamics and propose like how to, reorient um, the layout of the facility. I think as I think through that out loud, I mean, you might be able to install some diffusers or just play with things. But I mean, that's kind of an interesting idea. But again, that might allow for marginal gains in thermodynamics, which we would be much better off just sort of using our resources to earn revenue from companies. It's sort of like, myself as a CEO, is my time best spent, looking at building relationships with other leaders in the AI space, or, saving some money mowing my own lawn. I'd rather
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
what I mean? So yeah, so it's more about driving revenue with companies, because again, when you look at um the average, like, even at a $1.50 a kilowatt hour, that's still almost 15 times the revenue per kilowatt hour than you're seeing with Bitcoin mining right now, right? So,
Yeah.
and the other thing too, it's about enabling cool technology and companies that have a real need for this compute. Like, I'll bring it back to LLMs. I'll describe these in a little bit more detail. So large language models are the backbone of GPT. So GPT is a generative process transformer. So, GPTs have been around since 2018. So GPT-1 was 2018, GPT-2 was 2019, GPT-3 I think was 2020, and then GPT 3.5 came out last year, and now GPT-4 has come out. And so you could see the parameters are the quantity of data points that each GPT has in its library. So this is a GPT is a generative pre-trained transformer. It's a type of large language model. It's a framework for generative AI. Okay, so the very first one was introduced by OpenAI. And so the very first one had 117 million parameters. That grew by about 10x the
Hmm.
following year, GPT-2. But these were very rudimentary. I mean, no one would have been impressed unless you're a computer science guy that understood the intricate workings of what was going on. But the average person would not have been impressed by the level of adaptiveness or intuitiveness that a GPT-2 would have had. That's why nobody heard about it. GPT-3 with 175 billion, you see it's 150x more parameters. And so then it kind of got to that point where people are like, whoa, this is crazy. This thing, you get asked it to describe Cinderella and describe it like a pirate or an alphabetical order, and it would be able to do that for you. And now GPT-4 is at 1 trillion parameters. You could see it's grown um like 10,000x since GPT-1. So when these large language models grow in size, you have to train them, right? So what happens is you have a cluster of GPUs that you train the large language model, and that is incredibly resource intensive. And then once that language has been that model's been trained, then when somebody queries it and says, hey, summarize Cinderella for me in a hip hop narrative or whatever,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's called an inference. That's an inference, right? So that requires a lot less compute. However, there's something in between whereby you can actually fine tune models where if you want it to have, so for example, like Midjourney is a training of stable diffusion, right? So stable diffusion is a generative text to visual, text to image AI model. And then Midjourney has taken the stable diffusion and trained it more, so it's got better. Like it does really well with certain types of images, right? So that's fine tuning. So fine tuning is another resource intensive thing. So coming back on what I was describing, if say there's an aerospace contractor or a company that has a specific use, would say they have a large database of test data from the last 10 or 20 years, all of their simulators or actual tests on aerospace craft. We're talking about um, you know things involving air pressure, wind tunnel data, what have you, stuff that is happening in 3D, time variant, being described with partial differential equations, whatever. That's just one example. All of their large language, like they don't care about Cinderella or soup recipes, right? Like they're gonna want their LLM to be super smart at aerodynamics, right? And so, or fluid dynamics, or whatever engineering application that Europe has. So you would fine tune your GPT for the specific application that you need. So these are more real world applications of, well, what are companies needing? And so you want to fine tune these LLMs for these large language models, which, by the way, like again, a trillion parameters is massive. Like Matt, we're talking like this take months and months and months and tens of thousands of GPUs to train. But what we found is that there's been other large language models. There was a big breakthrough. There was one called Llama. There's about 13 billion parameters. And then that evolved to Alpaca and then Vicuna. And these were Llama, Alpaca, Vicuna. These are nicknames based on animals, obviously, that describe this LLM. But they only use a much smaller parameter set, so about 13 billion, which, by the way, 13 billion is less than GPT. Or sorry, it's GPT was 1.5 billion.
Yeah.
GPT-3 was 175 billion. So 13 billion, you're a little bit bigger than GPT-2. However, now with fine tuning, you can get a 13 billion parameter large language model to be almost as smart, if not better, than GPT-4 on certain tasks. Obviously, specific
Focus.
tasks
Yes.
and focus. And so that's where it's at now. Like it's a cool party trick to have this, general gigantic LLM. But at the enterprise level, the direction I see this is going is companies that are fine tuning 13 billion parameter models. So you have privacy and then the training, like that training you might want bespoke to yourself. You're like, hey, look,
Yeah.
that's our alpha, that's our edge. Where the way this is going, like people are like, oh my God, I'm gonna lose my job. AI is gonna replace me. No, you're going to be replaced by a company that uses AI if you don't utilize it. So
Yeah.
how do you use AI smarter than your competitors? Well, fine-tuning models, right? So if you do that, you're not if every Joe Blow is using OpenAI, like right now it's still a wild west. Not everybody knows how to use it, but sooner or later, right? Say in the next 2 or 3 years, say like everyone knows how to Google now, right?
Yes.
Maybe not everybody used Google back in the day, but eventually when that becomes status quo, is it going to be enough as a company where you're just using ChatGPT, which is a general LLM, to do your AI compute? Probably not, because the smartest guys in the room are going to be implementing their own fine-tuned models that will have their own secret sauce that are getting them more traction when it comes to doing generative AI. So that's the direction I think this is really going. And that's how we're positioning ourselves by building out Hive Cloud so we can onboard customers and run it from the hardware and the software. So we have a fully bespoke platform for that.